I know we all understand that change happens, right? It seems like things change all of the time. I am very aware, having some younger, at least one younger daughter, how language changes over time. For instance, the word cap. When you think of the word cap, what is it that you are thinking of? I bet many of you are thinking something that you put on top of your head or something that you screw onto a bottle, right? For about 1,000 years, that's exactly what that word meant. And then in the 80s, when I grew up, which was a great time, that word had a little bit different meaning. It actually meant to insult somebody, to put a cap on them. You put them down. You ask anyone who's quite a bit younger than me these days, and you will hear or find out that the word cap means to lie. So if somebody says to you, no cap, it means for real, no lying. You see, things change, and the way that we work through the change, or the way that we engage then in the change, becomes difficult. We can't rely on the things that we've always known. We can't rely on the things that we were taught, because it may not make sense any longer. Now, it's a little bit of a silly illustration, I understand, but just think about some of the other changes in our world and our society that may leave us wondering how it is that we deal with the new ways. For instance, I do remember the time when there were two-parent households and only one parent had to work and all the bills could be paid. Now, there are two parents working, and if a single parent is working, they're working 2, 3, 4 jobs just to make ends meet. There was a time when wealth was passed from one generation to another, and now that generational wealth is concentrated in the upper 10% of our population. We can have interactions or hear news from all over the world within seconds, making all of the things going on in the world so accessible we don't know what to think. Our society has moved from a stance of unity and harmony and living together in peace to one of division and us versus them. And we all know that dis and misinformation runs rampant in our society. And so when we lean in to who we are as a loving community, as we lean into who we are as God's people, God's children, it's often hard for us to figure out how we do this, because the way things used to be just don't work anymore. We find something similar in this text in the Gospel of Matthew today. I need to invite us to just think about this part of the Christmas story. As we get closer to Christmas Eve, we're just think about the whole entire story. Some of the bits of information we get from the Gospel of Luke, some from the Gospel of John, and then from this Gospel of Matthew. But let's just focus on the text of Joseph and the angel. Take this one bit of the story and think about how it was for Joseph. He received this news about his betrothed, more or less his wife, Mary, received the news that she was pregnant, and he knew it was not his child. I know as we read the text, we think that he heard the news, the angel appeared, and he was okay with it. But we know that there had to have been at least a few hours, if not a few days, between the time when Joseph received the word, struggled until he heard an answer. And to invite us to sit in the midst of that unknown for Joseph. We are told he was a righteous man, which meant he learned the law of Moses, which means he had attended synagogue. He had heard the rabbis speak of what it means and what it looks like to be righteous. And he knew the law would require him to turn Mary in. Sit with that struggle for a minute. We are told in the text that he loved Mary and that he wished nothing but the best for her, but still within him had to be that angst, that heartbrokenness, that even anger, that he would have to make a decision, one that either went with the societal norms of the day or one that would go against it. And when he chose that he would dismiss her quietly, the angel comes to him in a dream. And the angel says, "Don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife." You see, Joseph had to have been sitting in that fear. If he would dismiss her quietly, there would still be questions. There would be people who would come to him and say, "What's going on between you and Mary? Hey, we see she's with child. What's going on here?" There might have been all this fear that was keeping Joseph from actually seeing what could possibly become, to see a way forward. An angel comes and says, "Do not be afraid. Do not fear." For what is happening is pretty amazing. So we know the story that Joseph goes against that time-honored, conventional way of living. He chooses to be Mary's husband. He chooses to be the father of the Christ child. He chooses to lean into the unknown, for the angel did not give him a plan for moving forward. He chose to trust that what God says, God does. He chose to trust in the midst of the unknown to find new wisdom and new paths forward. As we've been journeying through this Advent, through the movie It's a Wonderful Life, we have gotten to know the main character, George, pretty well. In today's clip, we are going to see that point in which George himself is confronted with an impossible, seemingly impossible situation. Is he going to lean into the conventional wisdom or what others are saying he should do? Or will he find a way to lean in to a new way?
George, was it a nice wedding? Gosh, I wanted to be there.
Yeah. You can take this one off now. Now, just remember that this thing isn't as black as it appeared. I have some news for you, folks. I was just talking to old man Potter, and he's guaranteed cash payments to the bank. The bank's going to reopen next week.
But, George, I got my money here.
Did he guarantee this place?
Well, no, Charlie, I didn't even ask him. We don't need Potter over here.
And I'll take mine now.
No, but you're thinking of this place all wrong, as if I had the money back in a safe. The money's not here. Well, your money's in Joe's house. That's right next to yours. And in the Kennedy house, and Mrs. Maitland's house, and 100 others. You're lending them the money to build, and then they're going to pay it back to you as best they can. Now, what are you going to do, foreclose on them?
I got $242 in here, and $242 isn't going to break anybody.
Okay, Tom. All right. Here you are. You sign this. You get your money in 60 days.
60 days?
Well, now, that's what you agreed to when you bought your shares,
Tom, did you get your money?
No.
Well, I did. Old man Potter will pay 50 cents on the dollar for every share you got.
50 cents on the dollar?
Yes, cash.
Well, what do you say?
No, Tom, you have to stick to your original agreement. Now, give us 60 days on this
Okay,
thing.
Randall.
Are you going to Potter's?
Better to get half than nothing.
Tom! Randall, now, Randall, wait. Now, wait. Now, listen. Now, listen to me. I beg of you not to do this thing. If Potter gets a hold of this building and alone, there'll never be another decent house built in this town. He's already got charge of the bank, he's got the bus line, he got the department stores, and now he's after us. Why? Well, it's very simple. Because we're cutting in on his business, that's why. And because he wants to keep you living in his slums and paying the kind of rent he decides. Joe, you had one of those Potter houses, didn't you? Well, have you forgotten? Have you forgotten what he charged you for that broken-down shack? Here, Ed, you remember last year when things weren't going so well and you couldn't make your payments? Well, you didn't lose your house, did you? You think Potter would have let you keep it? Can't you understand what's happening here? Don't you see what's happening? Potter isn't selling, Potter's buying. And why? Because we're panicky and he's not, that's why. He's picking up some bargain. Now, we can get through this thing all right. We've got to stick together, though. We've got to have faith in each other.
But my husband hasn't worked in over a year, and I need money.
How am I going to live until the bank opens?
I got doctor bills to pay. I need cash.
I can't feed my kids on faith. I've got to have...
How much do you need?
Hey! I got $2,000. Here's $2,000. This will tide us over to the bank reopens. All right, Tom, how much do you need?
$242.
No, Tom, just enough to tide you over until the bank reopens.
I'll take $242.
There you are.
That'll close my account.
Your account's still here. That's a loan. Okay. All right, Ed.
Well, I got $300 here, George.
All right, now, Ed, what'll it take until the bank opens? What do you need?
Well, I suppose $20.
$20. Now you're talking. Thanks, Ed. That's fine. All right, now, Miss Thompson, how much do you want?
But it's your own money,
Now,
George.
never mind about that. How much do you want now?
I can get along with 20, all right.
$20, fine.
And I'll sign the
There you are.
papers.
You don't have to sign anything. I know you. You pay when you can. That's okay. All right, Miss Davis.
Could I have $17.50?
Bless your heart. Of course you can have it. You got 50 cents. There we go. 7.
We're gonna make it, George.
6.
They'll never close us up today.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo! We made it. Close the door, Eustace. We made it. Look, we're still in business. We still got $2 left. Well, look, let's have some of that. Let's celebrate. Get some glasses, Tilly.
My father spent his career in banking, finance. I have an accounting degree. I can tell you we were not taught to give away our own money if something is failing. Conventional wisdom sometimes does not lead us to the solution that is needed. When things become fearful, it is easy for us to want to regress to something that we've known, some experience. It is hard to lean into what can be when we don't have all the answers, when we are not certain of what comes next. We see that George leans in to what it means to be community, to remind those who are fearful around him that they're being together, they're being community, them sharing in that building and loan, that is what will get them through, will move them forward. When Joseph leans into the unknown of being the earthly father of the Christ child, he understands that it is not something that will just benefit him, but it creates a world of change. This is the story that we lean into in this Christmas season. And so no matter what unknowns are present in your life, no matter what you are fearing for the future, no matter where you land in wondering what God has for you, I invite you to hear the story of Joseph, to hear the invitation to lean in and trust that God is with us, that God's love is powerful, and that together we make the change and live into it. Thanks be to God. Amen.